Welcome to this quick tutorial on using Oracle BPM with Open Data Web Services. Our focus here in part 1 is to show you the application that we've constructed here. The focus area is Health and Human Services, Child Welfare, some use of NIEM, and overall the idea is to demonstrate the capabilities here in this solution set. And in part 1 I'm going to walk you through what the actual solution does, the sample solution, and then in subsequent parts we're going to look at the actual technical details of how this is all put together. So first, the mandatory disclaimer notice and safe harbor statement. And now the tutorial overview. So we're going to introduce the use case, look at the business process itself and the actors involved. Then we're going to demonstrate the example application, and then we'll go on to discuss the application architecture and review the components, features and capabilities, and then wrap up with the summary and resources where you can find out more. So the demonstration objectives are to illustrate the capabilities of a BPM application solution for this particular case management requirement. Demonstrate the use of information sharing web services and how we've integrated those. Show how this is scalable, lightweight technology. Introduce the Open-XDX tools. Introduce the use of SPARQL, and illustrate the rapid development using the Oracle platform and the tools that we have combined here. So the overall use case is child welfare emergency medication. So a child who is in care requires new medication, and the physicians have determined that they want to prescribe a psychotropic medication, and that requires a court authorization. So the caseworker has to initiate a court case. The attending physician then completes the medical report. The parents or guardian provide input and either assent or object, and then the judge reviews the case. So what we have is loosely modeled on an actual scenario, and today this is being handled with paper documents, a lot of faxes, PDFs, emails, and so on. So how can we formalize this business process, make it run much smoother? So the actors and roles and actions involved. We look at the high level of this. We have the caseworker, who's going to initiate the case to the child and then review and supervise the court outcome. Then we have the physician doctor, who's going to review the patient, provide a medical report. Then we have the child's parent, who completes the health history and the consent forms. And then we have the county judge, who's going to review the case and preside. And of course this is all timeline sensitive because in the real world a child who is having problems needs to get the medication quickly within a few days. So if we look at the business process workflow diagram that we've put together for this, this illustrates the happy path for the 3 swim lanes. We've got the caseworker at the top, the doctor in the middle, and then the court with the judge at the bottom. And of course, with these business process diagrams, the acronym here is what you see is what you execute. So this is actually within the product development tool set. You build this workflow diagram, and it then actually controls the workflow, as we're going to see when we do the demonstration. So if we step through this, the start of the workflow is entering the person ID for the child. retrieving their records from the case management system for the child welfare system, then the verifying that that's the correct set of records and that they're complete. If they're not, then obviously that has to be remediated. If they are, then we go ahead and initiate the case. The initial case records are created within the BPM process, and the doctor then receives an action item in their task dashboard. They can log in, review that patient record, case history again, initiate a SNOMED query using the SPARQL to actually take the prescription drug history information from the patient records and do a semantic lookup to determine exactly what the various drugs do that that child has been prescribed in the past. Then, once they've reviewed that, they can then go on to doing the diagnosis and the recommended treatment, enter those information into a BPM form. That information is then captured and creates the court records for the judge to review, and it's actually it's doing automated form filling of the PDF forms that the court uses, generating a NIEM exchange message as well. And so that can then enter the court system. The judge can then see in their BPM dashboard the action item to review the case materials. They can go in, log in, do that. They then have an additional form where they complete the court order JV223 form by either approving or disapproving or approving with comment on the actual case. That outcome then updates the court records, generates the review decision, which is then sent back to the caseworker for actioning. So that's a quick roundup of the happy path here of the workflow that we've enabled. And so now we're going to go ahead and do the actual application demonstration here. So we're going to begin the application demonstration by looking at the role and actions of the caseworker. So here we are logged in to the fictitious person Angelica Smith, who is our caseworker, and this is her dashboard. And so for her application here, which is the case management system, we're going to enter the person ID. So we've clicked on this. This has opened this BPM form, and now we want to initiate the case for our child. And so we're going to enter in the person ID, and obviously there's a lookup here and a search if you don't know the person. We're going to cover that in a later segment. And then simply submit this, and it's going to call the Open-XDX process, which will reach out to the legacy system via JDBC connection, bring back that XML, and then show us that information from that remote system. So that's running at the moment, and so we now have this coming back. And we can refresh the display, and we can see that we have these patient records for our child, our fictitious child Antoine Baker. And if I click on that, it's going to show me the person details, and now I can reorganize this on the screen. Scroll down, I can see the actual medical records here with the details of the prescriptions that the child has been taking. And so now I've confirmed that this indeed is the right person. I can approve this, and it's going to create the court case. And so I'm now done with the caseworker task, so I can log out here, and then the next step is I'm going to log in as the doctor. So if I do that, and now for the doctor, I can see that I've got the action item from Angelica Smith that created this patient review task for me for Antoine. And so now I'm going to click on this, and this opens up the same form that Angelica was viewing, and now I can review the medical records in the same way, see the prescriptions, and also on this tab I have the forms that were created for initiating the case. So we've got the application for the psychotropic medication, and then the prescribing physician statement. That's what I'm going to fill out as the doctor. And this is the parents' form to fill out their child's health and education history. And so if I agree that this looks okay, now what I want to do is run the next step, which is taking the medical prescription information and doing a SNOMED data analysis for me. And you can see that it's taken that tablet that was prescribed to Antoine and matched it with the SNOMED database, and it's telling me about the properties that that drug has and related drugs as well that are associated with it. So I can confirm that I understand the medication that Antoine's already been taking. And so now my next step is to enter the medical details for Antoine. And so I can put in, I evaluated the patient, and down here I can put in my recommended prescription. Click OK. And now that's completed the doctor's action. So if you think back to the BPM process, this has now sent the complete package off to the court. So if I log out here as the doctor, and now log back in as the county judge, I can see in the court dashboard now we have these cases that for review. We can see this is the latest one that we just received from Angelica, and now we can see we have these forms pre-filled, these PDFs. So if I click on the physician statement, this is going to open up this PDF form and show that I evaluated the patient, message from the doctor, and the prescriptions and the recommended prescription information. So I can now close this, my case here, and continue on with the next steps. Obviously I can open up each of these PDFs and review the information that's being provided about the case. And so if I click OK, this has now stepped me forward to the next step here in completing the court order. And so the judge goes ahead and makes their determination. We're going to grant this with a modification, so we can put in, I hope the child gets well soon, we have the judge's name, the date, pre-filled, and so this is going to complete the PDF form by posting this information to that. And so now if I log out as the judge here and log back in as the caseworker, we can see we've received back the decision from the court for Antoine Baker. And again, we have the details of the application, the physician statement, and now we have the court order. So if I click on that, again it's PDF, and we can see that the thing was granted with a note from the judge. And so we can now go back to the overall case and just complete this out, and that's the end of the task there. Now of course we can go back and look at completed tasks, which we were seeing with the court judge's dashboard there. You can see all the different things that have been performed, and obviously the BPM tool has a whole bunch of tracking tools and so on for the users. Okay, so that completes the roundup of functionality that we wanted to show of the application. So now we're going to return back to the PowerPoint slides and look at what the actual components were doing behind the scenes to enable all this. So I'm just going to log out here. So return back from our demonstration, we're now going to move on and actually look at the application conceptual development view of how we put this all together. So we're looking here at the typical design, test, deploy, delivery phases during development. So the first task here was creating those XML exchanges between the SQL database and the BPM forms. So as we're retrieving information, displaying it in the form, the patient's history, or the reverse, taking information that's been entered in the form and then passing that back in an XML format and storing it in the SQL database, is the interaction models that have been going on. And we have the visual development tool for building that, where you can view the databases and use drag and drop to quickly put that together. And then the next step, of course, is once you've done the initial design, is to be able to actually test it live using Open-XDX and be then able to generate the data and share it through the forms and the PDFs, of course, and then being able to actually deploy this between the Open-XDX, the BPM engine, and the web services, and then, as we saw, the delivery in the browser, or of course a mobile device, and so on. So that's kind of the conceptual overview of how things have been put together. And then we have the actual architecture for the application that we've just built. So at the top level, in the top swim lane, we have the data from the deployed application. So we have the case management system for the child welfare solution and the data that came from that of the patient. Then we have the MedCal data, which is the prescriptions and so forth, and the medical history of the child. And then we have data that's coming from the physician's office, what the physician is determining. And that then gets fed into the middle swim lane via the Open-XDX component, the user forms that we saw, being able to create the fillable PDFs, and then using XML to do the semantic query to the SNOMED database of the actual prescription drug information, and then the overall BPM engine controlling the user dashboard, doing the identity management, showing the user the correct forms, the next action in the BPM process. Once this gets completed, then it steps forward to the next step, and so on. And of course, in the deployed world, we would have secure messaging going through to the court system, passing forward the PDFs and the information in XML format using the NIEM protocol of the actual case details. So that's kind of the conceptual overview. Now we want to look at each of these components in a little bit more detail. So if we summarize this, we've got the Open-XDX toolkit with the visual mapping editor is how you configure things and set it up. Then each of those Open-XDX exchanges is done via web services with XML. The PDF handling is using the PDF box Java library. Then we have the SNOMED semantic lookup tools, the user forms and the SQL integration between those, and then of course the workflow engine and the dashboard. So those are all the pieces that you saw in play. And so now if we look at specifically the Open-XDX, we have the visual mapping from the data sources. In this case, this is the SQL JDBC connection. Template-driven code-free Java engine creates the deployed web services. So you literally just drag and drop, and it figures out how to go and connect to the SQL database and get the data that you need, format it as XML, and then structures that according to the XSD schema that it produces, that then binds that data source into the BPM form, and then displays that to the user. So that's kind of the overview of that. And now we're showing you how the visual editor drag and drop looks and performance. So on the right hand side here we've got the case management database with the medical history and the person details and so on. And you simply drag and drop those, in this case, into a NIEM XML court order structure where you need those. And then the Open-XDX engine will actually go and get that data and format it and structure it in that way. So that mapping itself between the structure, the database, and the documentation is all stored in this CAM template format, as we're seeing here. And so what we were looking at on the previous screen was the CAM editor, the visual editor, actually making the determination between the XML content that you want and the SQL, and storing all that. And then using that tool, you can create that XSD schema by simply choosing the export to schema option. And then these supplemental pieces that help document the package and explain what's going on. Models, sample instances, a dictionary of the components that you're using, and documentation and reports in HTML and Excel spreadsheets and so on. So that all helps when you're sharing this integration with your partners and the downstream systems. So those people in charge of managing the actual case management system can see how you're accessing it and so on. And then the user forms themselves, once we've created that XSD schema from the editor, we can now go ahead and associate that in the BPM development panel, and with one click be able to generate the form that matches those schema definitions. And then of course we can set up the interaction that we want. We're either going to read, update, or create information in the SQL data store depending on the action in the form. And this is all a code-free approach. So in later segments in the presentation here, this is the initial part one, so we're introducing the concepts. We're actually going to show you doing this and so forth in the developer mode, so you can see how that's all put together. Similarly, for the fillable PDFs, we create that schema for the information that's going to go into the PDF form and import that into JDeveloper. And then within JDeveloper, we can map those XML elements to the PDF form text object. So if we look over here on the right-hand side, we can see we have this blank, empty PDF form. And if we were to look inside that, we'd see each of the text fields that we're going to put data into. And so this is what's going over on in the left-hand side. The PDF box Java library is able to merge the content into that blank form and then produces this pre-filled PDF form and delivers it via a REST web-based interface as a binary object, and that we saw happening when we clicked on the link and it opened the PDF form in the browser for us to review. And next is the SNOMED lookup. So what's involved here is being able to take the National Institute of Health SNOMED drug catalog and preload that as RDF into the Oracle database, and then be able to run the SPARQL lookup, which we saw happening. We look up one particular drug, and it semantically gives you the associated related drug to that, and returns classification and other related information, and we again then push that and display it in the BPM form. And again, we're going to deep dive in another segment into the full details of how this is all working. So what we've shown is we're combining the capabilities of the Oracle BPM toolset with rapid data integration via SOA, via web services, via RESTful services, so we can build these workflows quickly and link to the interactive forms, minimizing the coding using visual development approach, drag and drop, leveraging XML with the SQL, PDF forms, and JSON as we need to. And the approach is creating these very scalable open data web services because, of course, the Open-XDX component is very flexible and can be deployed wherever you need it, multiple instances. So we've got some resources and links here for you. The Open-XDX and the CAM editor software tools, you can find those at cameditor.org. We've got information on the BPM product suite, so you can have a look at more details on what the suite itself can deliver. And there's an excellent little article here that we can point you to in Java Developer magazine talking about BPM without barriers. And there's some additional resources specific to Open-XDX. We have the verifyxml.org site, which is a showcase site. You can go and actually see some of these services running, try them out yourself, look at some application ideas, and go to GitHub and actually download sample code and download the tool and try it yourself. And similarly, we're just showing you here the cameditor.org project site has a whole wealth of resources available for you in the wiki, and some statistics on the use of the CAM editor tool itself worldwide here, give you a feel for that. And we also have this NIEM trainingvideos.org site where you can watch online videos such as this one and understand more about using the tool. Okay, that wraps up this first segment, and look forward to you being able to look in more detail at the technical parts that now follow this.